The dawn sunlight filtered through the dusty curtains of Art's small home, illuminating a yellowed photograph of a smiling young woman. Arthur Jenkins, 84, rose with the slowness of time, his movements ingrained with a well-practiced routine. His wrinkled fingers caressed the photo frame before he headed to the kitchen for his usual black coffee. He felt that same nervous excitement he had experienced so many times before. In the driveway, the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro waited, its midnight blue body reflecting the first light of day. Art ran an affectionate hand over the hood, a silent ritual. This car was not just a vehicle, it was a time capsule, a living fragment of his past and a silent witness to his many journeys. The purr of the engine when he turned the key was a familiar, comforting melody. He loaded his small travel bag, containing essentials, a worn Route 66 map, an old portable radio, and a yellowed notebook. No cell phone, no internet. Just him, the road, and his thoughts. This was his way of traveling, a deliberate disconnection from the modern world. He settled into the driver's seat, the scent of old leather and gasoline filling the cabin. As the Camaro pulled away from his home, the sun slowly ascended, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. Art cast one last glance at his porch, a solitary silhouette in the nascent light. Adventure was not the unknown for him, it was a return, an annual pilgrimage, a personal quest he undertook with the quiet determination of an old man at peace with his choices. The first few miles were silent, the familiar landscape drifting past the windshield. Art wasn't seeking a specific destination, he sought the journey itself, the memories that would emerge at each bend, each straight stretch of this legendary road he knew so well. Route 66 called to him, like an old friend. The Camaro's engine sang a low, steady tune as Art merged onto Route 66, leaving the suburbs behind for more open expanses. The sun was now high in the sky, casting long shadows on the worn asphalt. The landscape began to change, modern buildings giving way to older structures, rusty signs, and motels with extinguished neon lights. A light breeze stirred up desert dust, creating small eddies on the verges. Art rolled down his window, letting the hot, dry air into the cabin. The smell of earth, hot tar, and dry grasses transported him back to distant summers, to past trips with his wife, Sarah. Every bump in the road, every crack in the pavement seemed to tell a story he knew by heart. He drove past an abandoned old gas station, the pumps frozen in time, the open sign broken. A memory flashed in his mind, Sarah, laughing heartily as he tried to fix a flat tire under a scorching sun, his hands smudged with grease. He smiled softly, a mix of melancholy and tenderness. These memories were his road companions. The radio crackled, playing an old rock and roll song they had loved. Art gently tapped the rhythm on the steering wheel, his eyes scanning the horizon. The miles stretched on, the plain seemed endless, and the sky, a deep, cloudless blue, extended as far as the eye could see. There was no one else on this stretch of road, just him and the echo of the past. This was not a journey to escape, but to remember. Each mile was another step in the great book of his life, each landscape a turned page. Route 66 was an Ariadne's thread, connecting him to who he had been, to what he had loved. And even if the solitude was palpable, it was not empty, it was filled with the benevolent ghosts of his memories. As the sun began to descend, painting the sky with an ardent orange, Art felt hunger gnawing at him. In the distance, he spotted a flickering neon sign, the familiar beacon of a roadside diner. The Rusty Bolt Diner, the same one he had stopped at dozens of times in the past. The Camaro parked with a slight screech of tires, its engine signed to a halt. The diner's interior was a 1950s cliché, with its red vinyl booths, chrome counter, and the gentle clinking of glasses. Only a few tables were occupied. Art chose a booth by the window, from where he could see his faithful Camaro parked outside. The smell of fresh coffee and fries wafted through the air, comforting. A young waitress with colored hair and tattooed arms approached, notepad and pen in hand. "Good evening, sir. What can I get for you?" she asked with a warm smile. Art ordered a burger, fries, and black coffee, as usual. She didn't recognize him, of course, but the place itself seemed to remember every visitor. While he waited, Art pulled out his notebook and began to scribble a few words, scattered thoughts about the journey and the flood of memories. He was a silent observer of the world around him, noting details, facial expressions, distant conversations. The diner, for a brief moment, pulled him out of his meditative solitude. The meal was simple but delicious. When it was time to leave, Art left a generous tip and a small note in the notebook for the waitress. "Thanks for the great meal. Route 66 still has the best coffee." He stepped out, belly full and heart a little lighter, ready to face the night falling on the road. Night had fallen on Route 66, and the stars had ignited in the sky like scattered diamonds on a black velvet sheet. Art had found a small, decrepit motel, the Stardust Inn, barely lit by a failing neon sign. The room was simple, an unmade bed, an ancient television, but it offered shelter from the desert chill. Art sat on the edge of the bed, his gaze lost in the starry sky visible through the window. The Milky Way spread majestically, a spectacle he had always loved sharing with Sarah. They often lay on the hood of the Camaro, gazing at the stars and dreaming of the future. Those nights were etched in his memory, as vivid as the constellations above him. He took out his notebook and pen, not to write, but to draw. A quick sketch of the Camaro, then another, more detailed one, of Sarah, her laughter almost audible in the silence of the room. The notebook was more than a logbook, it was an album of his life, filled with faces, landscapes, and precious moments, immortalized by his trembling but steady hand. Sleep came gently, populated by dreams where Sarah was once again by his side, her hair flowing in the wind, her laughter clear and carefree. They drove together on Route 66, the Camaro speeding under an eternal sun, the music of their youth filling the air. These dreams were gifts, comforts that made solitude more bearable, even if waking was always a pang in his heart. In the middle of the night, Art woke with a start, his heart pounding. The silence was deep, broken only by the distant whistle of the wind. He got up, looked at the stars one last time, and touched the notebook on the nightstand. Tomorrow would be another day on the road, another opportunity to remember, another opportunity to feel the presence of those he had loved. Morning brought soft light and a fresh wind that swept across the plains. Art woke early, did a few stretches to loosen his old limbs, and made instant coffee in his motel room. He looked at the Camaro, still faithful, its midnight blue body covered in a fine layer of morning dust. It was time to get back on the road. He went outside with a cloth and gently wiped the windshield and hood of his Camaro, a gesture of tenderness he repeated at each stop. Every scratch, every chip in the paint told a part of their shared story. The car was more than a machine, it was a family member, a tangible link to his past. The wind picked up, bringing with it the smell of the desert, a mix of hot rock and dry vegetation. As he drove, Art opened the windows, letting the wind whip his face. It was a wind that carried the voices of the past, Sarah's laughter, the songs they sang at the top of their lungs, the deep discussions that had shaped their lives. He felt both alone and accompanied. He drove past fields of tumbleweeds rolling across the road, skeletal trees standing solitary against the sky. The landscape was vast, untamed, and yet, he found a form of serenity in it. Route 66 was an artery of America, a testament to perseverance, freedom, and the spirit of adventure. And Art was one of its last guardians. Each mile brought him closer to nowhere in particular, but to everything all at once. He wasn't fleeing time, he was traversing it, embracing every moment, every memory. The wind continued to blow, a symphony of past and present, and Art, at the wheel of his Camaro, was its silent conductor. Art stopped in a small ghost town, a former stop on Route 66 that had been abandoned in favor of new highways. The buildings were in ruins, the windows broken, but the atmosphere was strangely peaceful. He parked the Camaro next to a gas station with unreadable signs, letting the engine cool down. Art got out of the car, his notebook in hand. He began to draw the desolate landscape, capturing the essence of time standing still. The remnants of buildings, old telephone poles, solitary cacti, each element told a story of life and abandonment. It was his way of preserving what remained, of breathing new life into these forgotten places. He remembered passing through here with Sarah decades ago. At that time, the town was still full of life, shops open, children's laughter echoing in the streets. He imagined the conversations, the encounters, the daily life that had animated these places. Today, only the wind whistled through the broken windows, a murmur from the past. Sitting on a crumbled piece of concrete, Art felt at peace. There was no judgment in his gaze, only a deep acceptance of the cycle of life and death. The beauty of these places lay in their resilience, in how nature reclaimed its rights, and in the memory of the people who had lived there. He closed his notebook, satisfied with his sketches. The sun began to set, painting the sky with purple and gold hues. It was time to leave this ghost town to its memories and its silence. The Camaro restarted with a powerful roar, breaking the afternoon calm, and Art drove away, taking with him a fragment of this suspended time. Art's journey was usually planned, but today, an unexpected fork in the road drew him in. A rusty sign indicated Old Mill Road, a rarely traveled secondary route. Curiosity got the better of him. He He turned the Camaro's wheel, leaving the main Route 66 behind for an adventure into the unknown. The path was less maintained, potholes and gravel replacing the smooth asphalt. The Camaro, accustomed to smoother tracks, showed its robustness, the engine responding powerfully to every demand. Dust rose in clouds behind the car, marking its passage through the arid landscape. Further on, Art spotted an isolated old farmhouse, its wooden buildings weathered by time, a rickety windmill silhouetted against the sky. It was a scene from another era, a reminder of the simple, hard life of pioneers. He parked near a barbed wire fence, observing the place with silent interest. An old dog, a grizzled Australian shepherd, emerged from the shadows of a porch and cautiously approached the car. Art rolled down his window and extended his hand. The dog sniffed and accepted a few pets. An old man with a hunched figure appeared on the porch, a shotgun in hand. He lowered it when he saw Art. "Morning, stranger. You lost?" asked the old man, his voice hoarse but not unfriendly. Art explained that he was just exploring. They exchanged a few words about life in these isolated lands, the difficulties and simple joys. It was a brief but authentic encounter, a moment of human connection amidst the vastness of the desert. Art got back on the road, the sun beginning to set. The exchange with the old man from the farm reminded him of the importance of human connections, even fleeting ones. He thought back to all the people he had met over his travels on Route 66, forgotten faces, fleeting conversations that, in one way or another, had left their mark. The polished wooden steering wheel of the Camaro felt soft under his hands. He held it firmly, feeling the vibration of the engine, a pulse that had become the rhythm of his own life. The road was a metaphor, each mile traveled a step forward, even if the destination was often the path itself. He recalled a discussion with Sarah, long ago, about how people leave traces in our lives, even if they don't physically stay. These traces, these memories, were like invisible threads connecting us to each other, creating a complex web of experiences and emotions. Art felt this web envelop him, a silent comfort. The sun slipped below the horizon, painting the sky with dramatic colors, from deep oranges to soft purples. Shadows lengthened, transforming the familiar landscape into a mysterious and majestic scene. Art knew that solitude was not emptiness, but a space filled with these invisible bonds, these silent presences. He continued to drive, his heart filled with quiet gratitude. Route 66 was not just a road, it was a mirror, reflecting his life, his loves, his losses, and the resilience of the human spirit. And through these reflections, he found renewed strength to continue, to live each day with the same intensity as his first trip with Sarah. Art was nearing the end of his portion of Route 66, a section he knew like the back of his hand. He passed an old, weathered road sign, indicating the remaining miles to his symbolic destination. This destination was not a place, but a point of reflection, a spot where he felt particularly close to Sarah. Art parked the Camaro on a rocky promontory overlooking a vast desert expanse, mountains silhouetted in the distance under a twilight sky. This was their favorite spot, where they often came at the end of their long journeys, to contemplate the wild beauty of America and dream of their future together. He cut the engine, silence filling the cabin. He got out of the car, his gaze sweeping the horizon. The wind blew softly, rustling the dry grasses. He took out his notebook and, with a steady hand, sketched the landscape before him, trying to capture the immensity and serenity of the moment. Every pencil stroke was imbued with memories of Sarah, their conversations, their shared laughter. The sun slowly dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with flamboyant colors, from deep red to vibrant orange, then soothing purple. Art sat on the hood of the Camaro, just as they had done so many times, and watched the stars appear one by one, those same stars that had been the silent witnesses of their love. He no longer felt overwhelming sadness, only a gentle melancholy, a gratitude for the years past and the conviction that love never truly dies. He had survived, yes, but not alone. Sarah was still with him, in every mile driven, every memory rekindled, every twinkling star. He was a guardian of their legacy, of their story. Morning dawned on the promontory, and Art woke up in the Camaro, a slight smile on his lips. He had slept peacefully, cradled by memories and Sarah's silent presence. The sun began to warm the air, and the beauty of the desert landscape presented itself to him with renewed clarity. He prepared a cup of instant coffee, the steam rising in the cool morning air. He leaned against the midnight blue Camaro, mug in hand, looking out at the vast, clear desert. There was a quiet contentment on his face, a sense of peace that had settled deep within him. Art got back into the driver's seat of the Camaro, a sense of quiet closure. He placed the framed photo of Sarah on the dashboard, her smiling face looking out at the road ahead. The Camaro's engine roared to life, a powerful, familiar sound that signified not an ending, but a continuation. He drove away from the promontory, casting a final glance at the significant spot. His eyes reflected both the road ahead and the memories behind, a journey completed, a spirit renewed. The vastness of Route 66 stretched before him, an open book ready for new chapters, even if they were to be written alone. Art's hand gently rested on the steering wheel, a sense of peace and enduring strength permeating him. The sun began to set once more, painting the sky in a beautiful, final farewell as his particular journey concluded. The midnight blue 1969 Chevrolet Camaro, with Art at the wheel, disappeared into the distant horizon on Route 66, a timeless symbol of survival, love, and the enduring spirit of the open road.